Hi, welcome back to JB Foodie Cooks. Today we are celebrating National Chiffon Cake Day, so let's get started. So, to be completely honest with you, somehow my brain changed this national day into National Coffee Chiffon Cake Day, which seemed very specific, but I did it anyways. It's not that, it's just plain National Chiffon Cake Day, but I made coffee chiffon cake anyways. So to get started, for our wet ingredients, we are going to need 7 egg yolks, 117 milliliters of milk, 3.5 tablespoons or about 17 grams of instant coffee, 105 milliliters of oil. I used canola oil, and then 47 grams of castor sugar, or how it's known as in the United States, baker's sugar. The recipe I am using for this actually has you starting off by preparing the coffee mixture by bringing the milk to a boil in a pot. I felt like this was a really unnecessary step, so I actually just had my milk in a Pyrex glass and I put that in the microwave for about 30 seconds to get it lukewarm, and then I added my instant coffee to that and gave it a good stir in a bowl so that I could get all the granules nice and mixed, and got that ready to go and set off to the side. It looks mildly unappetizing, but it's going to be great, I promise you. Next up, we are going to need a handy dandy stand mixer, and to that stand mixer, you're going to need a whisk attachment, and you're going to add your egg yolks and your sugar into the stand mixer and blend it until it reaches a really light pale yellow color. You're going to want to stop your mixer every once in a while and scrape down the sides to make sure that you don't have any sugar sticking to the sides of your bowl while it's mixing. You're going to want to make sure that you get all that sugar and that egg yolk mixed together. And in terms of getting that pale yellow color, this might take a few minutes. It took me around 10 minutes of just letting it continuously beat and whip to finally get the color, that lightness that we're looking for. After you get your eggs and sugar looking a really nice pale yellow color, you're going to then add your canola oil or vegetable oil, whichever one you chose. And I chose to do this in small increments, making sure that after I added each little amount that I gave the mixer enough time to completely blend it in together before adding more. This just made me feel better. You could just add it all at once. Either way is going to work out fine, but that's just what I did here. Now that you have a nice egg, sugar, and oil mixture, you are then going to add that coffee mixture that we made at the beginning. So you're just going to add it to your stand mixer and mix until combined. At this point, you have an eggy, sugary, oily coffee mixture that smells amazing. You're going to want to put that off to the side because we now need to deal with the dry ingredients. For our dry ingredients, you are going to need 163 grams of cake flour, 2 teaspoons or about 8 grams of baking powder, and that's it. You are going to add the baking powder to the cake flour and give this a good stir, and bada bing, bada boom, we're done with our dry ingredients. We are now going to take the very numerous, just kidding, number of dry ingredients and add them to our coffee, egg, sugar, oil mixture. And we're going to fold that in until everything is good to go, and then we're going to set it aside. This is where I feel like I might lose some people. There's sort of another wet ingredient portion to this recipe, okay? It is going to require 7 egg whites. We used 7 egg yolks earlier. Now we're on to the whites. 117 grams of castor sugar, 2 grams or about 3/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar, and that's it. What you are going to do next is take those egg whites. They should be in a clean mixing bowl with a clean whisk attachment, and you are going to whisk those egg whites until they reach a foamy consistency. For me, this took a little under 5 minutes to reach. Once you get that foamy texture to the egg whites, you are then going to add the cream of tartar to the egg whites. Once you have your egg white and cream of tartar mixture, you are then going to allow your stand mixer to just do its magic. It's going to run on about a medium speed, that's what I used, for up to 10 minutes sometimes to get soft peaks. So you want it where if you lift up the whisk out of the egg whites and you flip it upside down, that if you have a peak, it slowly falls. That's soft peaks. That's what you want to get to. Once you reach this soft peak perfection, you are then going to gradually add the remainder of the sugar, which was the 117 grams of castor sugar, or also known as baking sugar here in the US. So you're going to want to gradually add that and keep blending and whisking until you see stiff peaks form. So stiff peaks are going to be when you can take the whisk, pull it out of your egg white mixture, flip it upside down, and you will have a peak that pretty much does not move or start to droop. It's stiff and sturdy. That's what you are looking for. Getting to stiff peaks may also take you around 10 minutes, depending on how high you set your stand mixer to. So like I said, I had mine set on medium, and it was around 10 minutes to get to stiff peaks once I added all of the sugar. So it will entirely depend on how high you set your mixer or how low you set your mixer. I would just go with medium. It might take a little bit longer. I know some of us are impatient, we'll just crank that up all the way to high, but it'll pay off. Just put it on medium and coast. And now that you finally have stiff peaks and you've been sitting there for what feels like forever because you're impatient like I am, you are going to take 1/3 of this whipped egg meringue mixture and you are going to add it to the coffee, egg, sugar, oil mixture we made previously. Now that you have a third of the meringue mixture in your coffee mixture, you're going to gently fold this in. The recipe I'm using for this tells you to beat the meringues in to lighten up the recipe. Just fold them in. You don't want to lose all of the air that you just added to all these egg whites by just beating it into oblivion. So gently fold them in and get that first little bit going. The mixture will definitely lighten up and will increase in volume. Once you have that first third of the meringue mixture added to your coffee mixture and you've got that nice and combined, you are then going to add half of the remaining meringue mixture into the coffee mixture, get that nice and combined, and then you will add the last bit of the meringue mixture into the coffee mixture until you have one big cohesive coffee meringue mixture bowl of deliciousness. You want to make sure that there are no white streaks remaining, so you don't just have any big streaks of meringue left. You want to make sure it's all nice and well combined. Now that you have one cohesive mixture, you are going to pour it into an ungreased tube pan. And if you're like my husband, who was not trusting in the instructions and he had you actually grease the pan, you could do that as well. It ended up turning out fine, but the instructions do specifically say an ungreased tube pan. And I will tell you, for this particular recipe, I'm using a 25 centimeter tube pan, so it's one of the largest tube pans you can have. Once you have all of your batter into your tube pan, it tells you in the instructions to take the pan from about a height of 10 centimeters or about 4 inches and drop it onto the table to dislodge any large air bubbles. So that's what your girl did. I dropped it a few good times to make sure there were no large air bubbles floating around in this here mixture. Now that we have gotten all the air bubbles out, we're going to now take this tube pan and we're going to place it into an oven that has been set to about 320 degrees or about 160 degrees Celsius for those of you who don't live in the United States. And you're going to cook it until it's nice golden brown color. For this particular sized tube pan, you are going to cook it for 65 minutes. I actually ended up only cooking mine for about 60 minutes. I could smell that it was done and that if it went any longer, it was going to be burnt. So I pulled it at an hour. Once you pull it from the oven, you're supposed to invert the pan or flip it over until the cake is completely cooled before you unmold it. I, in my infinite wisdom, did not take into account that the middle of the tube pan is taller than the rest of the pan around it, so my original pan did not work out, but my husband was smart enough to come in and help me. So onto a baking sheet it went and it cooled overnight. In the morning, I took a butter knife and I ran it along the edge to help the sides of the coffee chiffon cake to come off the sides of the pan, and then I gave it a good bang and out came the chiffon cake, no problem. The texture of this cake is beautiful. It's light, it's airy, it's a little spongy, it's a beautiful texture for a cake. All those whipped egg whites, all that time you spent pay off in this cake. If you like dipping your morning pastries in the coffee, this is a really good one. I know it's already coffee flavored, but dipping in more coffee just like exponentially adds to the coffee flavor. I'm just saying. But I felt like for this one, you could probably add a type of icing or some sort of drizzle on it, and that would just be the extra cherry on top for me. If I were to make this again, I would definitely add a little something on top to zhuzh it up because I just felt like it needed a little something. This is actually not that sweet of a cake. It seems like it's a lot of sugar, but all in all, at the end of the day, with the amount of coffee that's in there, it actually balances out really nicely. But for me, I feel like I could just use an extra little zhuzh of sugar because apparently I need sugar on sugar to make me happy. So I hope that you're celebrating National Chiffon Cake Day somewhere. Even if you're not enjoying coffee chiffon cake, maybe you like just plain chiffon cake or lemon chiffon cake. That's a good one too. Maybe I should have made that. Maybe next year. But either way, let me know if you try this recipe out down in the comments below. Tell me how it went. Did you like it? Would you make it again? Maybe I should try another flavor. But besides that, I hope you have a great rest of your day and I will see you next time. Bye.